I know this neighborhood pretty well. In fact, I know a lot of you pretty well. I was your paper boy for much of the late 80s and early 90s. Nancy down here, did I do a good job? You could have tipped a little better, you know. $2, I mean, come on. But I grew up on Louise, and my dad used to bring me to this park, and he'd jog around while I'd play on this equipment, and I know this neighborhood very well. I also know the power of neighborhood communities, and I've seen it happen in our Loma neighborhood. Before I was elected to the city council, I moved into that Loma neighborhood, and one of the reasons I moved there is it reminded me of the neighborhood of my youth, the big trees, the established neighborhood, and I liked it there. And there was a newsletter that was published, and I remember coming out on my front porch shortly after moving there and reading it and realizing, wow, we had a neighbor of the month. We had cleanup days scheduled. We had an annual meeting. We had a movie night in the park. We had a board. We were organized, and it felt great. Shortly after that, I joined that board and was there when we decided to clean up one of our parks, Marana Estates Park. It was a park not unlike Pike Park, except the equipment was really old and rusty, and there was drug deals happening there, and it wasn't a safe place to bring your kids. And some of the neighbors applied for a grant. Mike Meridian applied for a grant. We got a grant from this organization called Kaboom off the East Coast, just because we looked for it and we found it. We got a little money from the city. We raised over $60,000, and then we brought 400 neighbors to this one park, Marana Estates Park. We rebuilt the whole park. We cleared out all the sand that was in there. We put in the sod. We put in the equipment ourselves. And I'll tell you, I jog past that park all the time, and there is no graffiti there. And a place that once was very unsafe is now a pride of our neighborhood. And it's a place that I really enjoy seeing. And I've got twins that are going to be born in about 10 days, and I look forward to taking them to that park and saying, I did this. I shoveled that sand, and I put it there. And you better appreciate it, kids. But that's the power of neighborhood groups. It gives you a toolkit. Tonight's a lot of rah-rah stuff, like, oh, thanks for coming. You know, thank you for coming. But what you'll see if you stick with this is that this is about as powerful a concept as any concept can be in revitalizing a city. It's one thing to have a bunch of neighbors sitting around saying, our town's going down the drain, or, you know, there's drugs happening, or, you know, it's all renters now. But when a group comes together and says, here's our top 5 or 6 things, fix this. We as a city council person say, great, we have a clear mandate from a specific area. This is what we can do to help. And we know if we do these 5 or 6 things, and we do them well, our citizens are going to be happy. They're going to feel like they have a stake in government. They're going to put in their volunteer time and effort, and that's going to go well beyond anything we can do as a local government. So don't underestimate the power of this group that stands here. As a person who's experienced 4 years of the Loma neighborhood, I know it is truly a very powerful tool. So I hope you'll dig in. I hope you'll pick a community. I hope at the end of the year you'll be able to look back individually, every one of you, and say, I did that. I worked on that little piece. I put in those 5 hours to help clean up a park, or I sat on a community that thought about how to deal with homelessness in our area, or I participated in thinking about a security patrol. But I hope every one of you at the end of the year will be able to sit back and say, I did something. It may have been small, but I did something. And if you do that, your city will be better, your neighborhood will be better, you'll love the place you live, and you'll feel like we're getting better. And in time, we as a city will get better.